Captain Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alpha Dean. We have Spigs18 or Anthony. And Dean, what are we doing here today?
Well, today, guys, we have a special group of friends here. But before we begin, I'd just like to take a moment to say a few words to our viewers out there. We here at Cypher Unlimited wish, for the safety and well-being of everyone in the world, and especially in our country right now. We're in unprecedented times, and we need to remain vigilant. We need to remain aware. Protest if that's what your heart desires, but do it peacefully. We support Black Lives Matter, and for that matter, we support equality in everything and civil liberties for all of us. My only two final points here before we get on with our show is remember this: COVID-19, Corona, is still out there. It's a very real thing. Don't become lax in protecting yourself and your families. Secondly, there will be a second wave of this virus, and if you know anything about history, the pandemic in 1918 lasted 2 years. Be safe, everyone, because we here at the CU want to see you in all the coming years. Now on to our show. We've got the cast of Explorers Wanted, and we're going to hear talk about them. This is a group of friends who came together for their love of tabletop RPGs. And they make a weekly podcast called Explorers Wanted. It's a Numenera actual play about exploration, intrigue, and friendship. Each episode is tightly edited, and it provides a balance between theatrical scenes, humor, and those delicious dice rolls. So with that being said, we have Dandrew Andrewick, Marietta Jones, Samson Davis, Alex Finn, and Stace Babcock, the Explorers Wanted crew. Anthony.
Don't you want them to?
I'm sorry, guys. I'm lost in the sauce. Can you guys introduce yourselves for us so everybody knows who everyone is?
Sure. I'm Daniel Anderlich. I'm the GM.
I'm Marietta Jones, and I play Italia. She's a meddlesome nano who explores dark places.
All right, I'm Stace Babcock. I play Nyx, a confident glaive who needs no weapons.
Nice.
I'm Samson. I play Dilly, who is an intelligent right who crafts illusions.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I play Cha-Cha, the passionate nano who sees beyond.
Nice. Those sound like some interesting characters, I had to jump on and listen to a few episodes.
I mean, we hope so.
Yeah. That's why we do it.
Yeah, I know you guys already have 14 episodes in. Congratulations. That's a nice
Thanks.
little run, man.
Thank you.
So could you explain to our listeners, how did Explorers Wanted came to be, and what's everybody's role on the show?
Ooh.
Well, one day Dan asked us if we want to do a podcast, and we said yes.
It technically starts before that.
It starts at
Yeah.
GeeklyCon.
It did.
Yeah.
It did start
2017?
18.
2018.
Yeah.
2018.
So, four of us met at GeeklyCon, a gaming convention that's done by the Geekly Inc. podcast. And I happened to be running a Numenera game and got a chance to play with these people. And when we left GeeklyCon, I really wanted to do a Numenera campaign. And so I reached out to them, and I wanted to get another player. And Alex joined us because Alex was just looking for another tabletop group at the time, had no idea what she was getting into. And we played a campaign together, and it was a lot of fun. And then a little bit later, something kind of ate at me in the back of my head, and that was in 2018. Mariette and Stace asked if I was interested in doing a podcast at some point, and at the time I said, absolutely no way.
Exactly what you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like, oh my gosh, Daniel is so good at this.
Yeah, we're like, if you don't, you should. Like,
Yeah.
2 weeks later.
One
So, like,
campaign later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little over a year later, I said, like, you guys still want to maybe do a podcast?
Only one of my deepest desires, Daniel. Thank you for asking.
You guys are great.
I mean, who does all the editing? You know, the sound work. Is that all you, Daniel?
Yeah, right now it's all me. So I do all the editing, and then I also put together our little like clip videos and things like that.
It's kind of superhuman. I don't really know how he does it all.
Daniel does most of the work. It's true.
Happy to be here.
Well, you guys do a little heavy lifting too. Now, I mean, he wouldn't have anything to do if you guys didn't show up to enjoy the game every week.
Yeah, a story isn't a story without a cast. I can tell you that much.
I mean, I know that feeling. Like when we come to make our videos, like I do like all the tech stuff, but like I kind of feel like I don't have as much to say as these guys sometimes. But they reassure me that I actually do contribute in a meaningful way. So
I don't know why you keep saying that. You do.
We all say so. But
I know a few people who actually enjoy seeing you. They just crack up with you on screen,
But yeah, now that we've touched a little bit on your the Numenera podcast, you guys obviously play Numenera. Could you guys tell us a little bit more about your experience in gaming and what, if any, other games other than Numenera you might enjoy?
Ooh. My experience in games started in high school, which was, I don't know, like 2003, 2004. Today's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you. And I played like some 4th edition D&D then, and took like a decades-long break after that. And then Marietta was like, I'm running a D&D campaign. Do you want to come play? And I was like, I have been waiting. Like hoping in despair that someone would ask me, and so we got back into it. And then but really the only other systems I've played are Fate and Cypher. If I've played another system, it was one time and I've forgotten.
Forged in the Dark, Blades in the Dark.
Oh, Blades in the Dark.
That's a great game.
Thank you, Daniel. This is what Daniel's here for.
The other game I ran for you.
That other campaign I did.
So, Daniel, what about your background?
I started in middle school with AD&D 2nd edition, and that was fun. And then later on in high school, I went all goth, and that was around the time the World of Darkness games were coming out. So my friends and I played a lot of Vampire. Coming from D&D, we were so excited. We were like, you only need D10s, guys. How crazy is that? And but when I went to college, I didn't have a gaming group anymore. And so I kind of gave it up. And I'm still a bummer because I gave away all my supplements over that time. So when I got back into the hobby, actually around the time 4th edition came out, I had a ton to buy up. And so I ran a 4th edition campaign I still sort of do, for a few years. It's in 5e now. But when Numenera first came out, I was desperate for somebody to play it with me, and I could not convince my D&D group to try it out for some stupid reason. So when I went to GeeklyCon in 2018, that was sort of my this is it. I'm going to run 3 games of Numenera, and I'm going to find people to play with me. And it worked out amazingly. I found an awesome group.
Before anyone else answers, where is GeeklyCon? What state is it in?
It changes. It was in Columbus. It was going to be in Columbus this year, but they had to cancel because of COVID. But it is next year. It's in Rochester, New York.
Ooh.
Oh, it's not far from us.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Rochester, that's like 45 minutes to an hour from me.
All right, party next year. What are you doing next July?
I guess I'm gonna be.
I said we going to GeeklyCon. What else?
Hey, what else?
Surprise.
What's really funny, and I had to bring it, Daniel. I find it quite interesting. It seems like within like the last 20 years of gaming, it's become that weird thing that you can't get people to try anything else.
Yeah.
Like I started way back in 77, and I'm gonna tell you, from like 77 to maybe about 2004, 2005, it was nothing. If I pulled out a new game, everybody was jumping on the spot. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Weird.
It is, which is weird because we're having such a renaissance of RPGs right now. It's
Yes.
pretty outstanding. Like not just off the big systems, but even the little indie games that are just fun and weird. And that's the other thing is I've grabbed a bunch of these guys and sucked them into trying out other games that like have started piling up because there's so many great games. I keep buying the rule books and then I never have time to play them.
So
We love to
Samson,
reap
what's
the
your background?
benefits.
My background, so I had always been really into sci-fi fantasy stuff, but I never actually played a tabletop RPG until the summer between my sophomore and junior year of high school, and that was 3.5e. Played that for the summer. That was great. And then nothing until GeeklyCon 2018.
Nice.
It's the
GeeklyCon is a
catalyst.
special place.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm missing out.
Hey, damn, what goes on over there? Yeah.
It's just really wholesome and good, you know.
It's like Burning Man for role-playing games.
Well,
I think it might be more Gen Con, but
Yeah. But still, that's awesome.
GeeklyCon, you guys ever watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Tahiti?
Yeah.
Yeah.
GeeklyCon, it's a special place. So Alex, tell us your story.
So actually, I didn't start playing any tabletop games until like the months after GeeklyCon 2018. And so after trying some D&D, Daniel was the first person to ever run a different, style of tabletop for me. Because I was just signing up for everything like, I should just try it all. I have no idea what this is, but okay.
But that's a great attitude to have, because I think most people have the exact opposite.
Exactly.
They'll find one game and stick to it.
I mean, it's nice, but it's just like there's other things that you can do in so many other systems. That's just amazing. Like, I ended up running a Pokemon tabletop game. And I tried not to kill my players. I really did. And I succeeded for like a while.
Wow, that's awesome though. So, and Marietta?
I was a nerdy kid growing up. I read a lot. I played a lot of like RPGs. I kind of always wanted to play like D&D, but I never really had a chance until I think it was like 2015. I went to a friend of mine invited me to this anime convention, which is another thing I'd always wanted to do, is go to a con, and I hadn't. So I was like, sure. Went, had the whole cosplay experience. It was great. And then they're like, oh, by the by, we're starting a D&D campaign. Do you want to play? And I was like, oh no, not one of the biggest dreams of my entire life. So I joined in that and played D&D, had probably like 3 different campaigns, ran my own for a little while. And then Stacy invited me to go to Geekly with her, and I had no...
Made her go to Geekly with me.
Well, I didn't know anything about it. She's like, okay, you gotta listen to this podcast, and we're gonna go to this convention. And I was like, okay, sure, let's go. That sounds great. So we went, and she was like, oh, we're gonna do this Numenera thing. It's like a different system. It's gonna be so cool. I really want to try it. And I was like, I'll do whatever you want to do. Of course. And so we did it, and it was really good. And the first thing I thought was like, wow, oh my gosh, I've never played with such a good GM as far as like pacing and like story content, and it was just such a good experience. And I think that's really what made Stacy and I say, hey Daniel, you ever thought about doing a podcast?
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's great, guys. Those are great answers. And, that just kind of leads us perfectly into the next question is, so was Numenera always the first choice for a setting? And if it was, or even if it wasn't, but why did you choose Numenera?
I love the Ninth World so much. Like I've run other games and like in other settings. Like I love Invisible Sun too. Like I ran a fun little mini thing of that. I'm dying to get back to it at some point, but I just love the weirdness of the Ninth World. I love the setting. It's got the best bestiary of any RPG I've ever experienced. And so for me, like it's still like I like running other games, but Numenera has always been like my favorite game and setting to run, and the setting is so broad, especially in the supplements. Like there's no reason to ever get bored in it because there's so much you can play with.
Mm-hmm. Voices of the Data Sphere.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great book.
It is a great book.
What was the Under the Sea one?
Into the Deep.
Oh, Into the Deep.
Yeah.
This is the space one, right?
Into the Night.
Oh,
This is space one.
what's Into the Abyss? Is that a book I'm making up?
That's another. Yeah, that's something.
It's gonna be published next year.
The Into series is Into the Abyss, the Outside, Into the Deep.
I was like, did I make that one up?
I was like, what the heck?
No. It's okay, Al. It's the title of my memoir.
Oh boy. Oh, but yeah. I'll.
Go ahead, Al.
No, I was gonna say, was there any like the love of Numenera is quite obvious, but was there any other consideration for any other system? Or was it you were dead set on Numenera for this?
I'm pretty sure Daniel was like, "You guys want to do a Numenera podcast?" And I was like, yes.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
It's a really short story.
No, it's awesome to see that love. No, quite honestly, it's awesome to see that.
Yeah.
Did you have to explain Numenera, or everyone played it prior? So was there, did you guys, when you first discuss, starting the podcast, did you do like a little brief backstory or what area you were gonna, in the Ninth World, you were gonna develop your story from?
Yeah. So the way I do every campaign is once I know who's interested in playing, I'll write a campaign pitch. So I'll give them sort of like a teaser. So in our case, it's basically the same thing that we ended up using is sort of like the story of somebody seeing the sign. And then I have the rest of the pitch document has like, this is where the story's starting. This is roughly where it's going to go, like geographically, without too much detail. And this is how long I think it will probably take to tell the story. Sometimes that's a wild guess. And then basically when I put it out, then I also say like, okay, if everybody's on board with this pitch, then I need your characters by this time with these pieces of backstory that you need to provide by this date and time so that I can put it together and meld it into the story. Because the other thing that I require when I run those campaign pitches for Numenera is that I do an adaptation of the Invisible Sun character arc idea because I want that to feed the story. So I'll award XP as they move along their arc.
Well, that's excellent, Daniel. And it's funny. I think you're the first person that we've had on the show that kind of talks about their prep process, and it seems a bit involved. It's kind of cool. You should write up a document and put it out there for people. It could be used to.
Quite honestly,
Bless your secrets, Daniel.
Of he blurs them out, but they're like these trees of like the whole plot, like
such
story,
a fucking tease.
And then the one other thing I will say is that we actually all have done one other campaign together. So I think like doing that first Numenera campaign and like having that experience and seeing how we play together and get to know each other, like who we are as characters, and then coming into the podcast, we had a better idea of like how the system works, how the character creation process works. So I think it was easier to come up with like who do I really want to play for a prolonged period of time, and proposing that. So.
I mean, that's really interesting, and it kind of leads into my next question, which is more cast-based. We love you, Daniel, but we want to hear from the cast now. And it's very obvious from listening to the show that you guys enjoy playing with each other, or you guys can hate each other's guts off air, but on the show, it sounds like you guys really like each other. You guys all have very unique and interesting characters. Can you guys discuss a little bit about how establishing chemistry between your characters, and is it something that you consciously had to work on during the shows?
So I feel like for me with Nyx, that actually it was Dilly's character that it was easiest for me to improv around with in the first couple episodes. I feel like we had a couple pretty good scenes early on. I don't know if that's just because our characters don't like have at that time like an obvious source of conflict. Because like Italia and Nyx did. I don't know. I feel like I'm not answering the question anymore.
Yeah, like no expectations between us, so whatever.
Yeah, but when we go into it, like all your characters, you're supposed to have a connection to one other character at the beginning of the campaign, so that kind of like gave us a baseline. But because there was like some conflict in my and Nyx's, because that's my connection, is Italia is connected to Nyx. But there's some conflict there, so I think it was less likely for us to like interact in the beginning, which gave her more opportunity with Dilly, for instance.
Did your guys roll your connections, or did you establish them with Daniel? You know, from connections that weren't in the book.
Oh,
I usually go off book.
Yeah.
Personally.
Just made them up. It's like you guys ever play Jackbox games? Or monsters meeting monsters?
Monsters.
It's like
yeah.
It's like we text each other and we're like, do you want to have a connection? and then they're like, no, I'm doing my connection with Alex. And you're like, oh.
it's monster seeking monster.
Monster seeking monster. Yeah.
We actually play Jackbox games a lot at home, and that's a pretty fun one. But it's most fun if everybody is anonymous. You don't know who's who. But
it was our 14 favorite for sure.
It's super fun.
So, like we were talking about, you guys establishing those connections. So was it, so you guys figured out your connections, but what about the overall chemistry? Did that happen organically? Was that something that you guys had to work on?
I think that's what I was getting at. Is Nyx and Dilly felt organic, had to work on it with Italia, and Cha-Cha was, and might still be, I'm trying to remember where we're at, in Cha-Cha's character arc, extremely mysterious.
I mean, that's still true at any point, so.
That's fun. But now that we've talked a little bit about, what your onstage chemistry, a little bit about your love for Numenera, let's talk about the actual play itself a little bit, or the process itself. Do you have any advice for our listeners who want to start their own actual play podcast, and maybe what are some pitfalls they can avoid, and as cast members and as a GM?
I think it's important to have played a campaign together, so everybody else. I've been on another podcast, and we just tried to go from zero to podcasting, and it made it difficult to kind of have that on the table chemistry. And if something happened in the podcast that one person didn't like, it was harder to deal with, where it was that's just characters doing that. That's not really what's happening between you and me, and we're different.
That's a great point.
It is.
And I think to me, the golden rule for any creative venture is, even if you're not successful at all, do the thing that you want to keep doing, even if you don't go anywhere with it. So for us, or for your podcast, play the game that you would want to play, even if no one's listening. Because you're probably not going to be Critical Role or The Adventure Zone. So.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah.
I feel like Critical Role killed a ton of actual plays and podcasts before they even started. A lot of people record one episode and go, "Oh, I'm not Matt Mercer, I give up."
Yeah. Or vice versa. It killed a lot of people coming into the hobby because you didn't have Matt Mercer running your game.
Yeah.
That's okay. We have Daniel. He's
we have Daniel. We're.
I think. From my understanding, and just a little bit I listened to that first episode. Daniel's got a knack there.
Thank you. It's amazing.
But from the GM's perspective, are there any advice you have for being the GM of an actual play podcast? Maybe some pitfalls you had to learn on the way while doing your stuff.
So two things. One, at a high level, is it's way more work than you probably think. So any amount of time you think you're going to be spending on it, double it. And the other thing is make sure you've got a group that you trust and can work with there, because you're going to be depending on each other. From the GM standpoint, there's not a lot that's different. Like the biggest difference is that the pacing ends up being like around it, like since we were aiming for around an hour whenever we could, because long podcasts, like if you're really into them, you'll listen to them, but if you're not like 100% into them, you're going to stop listening. So we wanted it to be kind of short and sweet. So the biggest difference is like really think about your pacing per episode. Like even if you would do the same thing in a campaign, but like with an episode, it's almost like a con game. You have to know I need to end at this time. I need to watch the clock. And that means that depending on what the players want to do, I better have like at least 3 or 4 jumping off points depending on what they want to do, where I can bail out and do a cliffhanger. And most of the time, it doesn't even work out that way because the players will always do something you don't expect, and you'll have to improvise. But at least having that rough skeleton, you can work with it. But you have to go into each meeting, each recording ready.
Your answers spark like 2 additional questions. One is how much editing takes place, and do you film like a 4-hour session and then break it down into 4 1-hour episodes? How does that work?
We record, so every time we get together we record 2 recordings, but we do it watching the clock. So every recording is a discrete session, so we have a specific cliffhanger that we end on, and then we take a break and then we record this next episode. So there's the editing, there isn't like a really long session that we cut up, because then we wouldn't be able to have the pacing that we want. But with the editing, we do quite a bit. We don't remove a lot of content, but we remove a lot of like dead air, or if I catch one of us repeating, things like that. So like roughly each episode starts off around an hour and a half, and then it ends up around an hour 10.
Nice.
Cool. I definitely understand that whole like coming into the game, or record it or stream the game or whatever have you, and having to have your pacing on point. It's a big reason why I really haven't done any actual plays myself as the GM, whereas Anthony and Dean have done a couple at this point. They can tell you my pacing is quite an issue right now. But it is what it is. People have fun still, so
and I have to defend you a little bit, Al.
Yeah, Dean's a nice guy. I'm
gonna defend him a little bit, just a little bit, and that's only because I've had so much fun playing. So it's kind of forgivable. But yeah, you gotta get your points of intersection figured out.
Yeah, most definitely.
So with that being said, you guys play individual session zeros to establish characters, and it's understood that you use the Sooth deck from Invisible Sun. How did you find that worked out with character creation? Did you guys feel it helped establish your character's backstory? Did it make things stronger or easier to implement?
So half of us did our session 0 before the campaign started, Mariette and Alex, and then Samson and I didn't do it until 3 or 4 recording
Slackers.
sessions. I know So I guess I'll let the 2 who did it first talk about what that was like, and then I'll talk about what it was like to do it partway into the campaign. Samson can talk too if he wants.
So I think it was actually because I was kind of freaking out, because I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to record this podcast and I've never played this character before. Like, I have a theory of who I want her to be, but I haven't done it. So I was like, Daniel, can we do something about that? And he was like, yes. So like I had made my character descriptor, like my character sheet was all ready to go, and I had an idea, but I didn't really like know specifics or how she would react in situations and that kind of thing. So having the Sooth deck kind of determine it was really good, and it just forced a bunch of situations that my character had to react to. So it was like, well, how would Italia react to this, and then playing that. So it was just like nice practice before we recorded our first episode.
Yeah, for me, I have a problem with limiting my characters. they will have one direction, and then suddenly they take a hard left turn, and oh no, they're stealing people's skulls out of their bodies while they're still alive. That's probably not a good, helpful person thing.
Or it is.
It helped us.
Yeah.
So you're the anarchist of the group.
I think,
Yes.
Yeah, actually.
It makes for good listening, though.
I don't know. You know, to look at her, you think she'd be the sweet member of the party. You know. She's like, "Yeah, you know what? You know. It's a soul."
No, like the first campaign I played with them, I was just like, I'm gonna make a helpful person who's like, you know, really good with dealing with people, and she's just gonna, you know, sure, her quirk is she can go through walls, whatever. And then suddenly it turned to, and then I rip his shin bone out of his leg.
It was amazing. Daniel was like, that seems like fun, sure.
I'll allow
became
it.
this unholy beast.
Yeah.
So Stacey, tell us about it, how it worked out for you moving, you know, partial way in.
Yeah, so I felt like I kind of slid into Nyx pretty easily our first recording session, but what I will say is, and Daniel insisted, Daniel really harassed us, Samson and I, to do that session 0. So I was like, okay, yeah, we'll do it. And I am so glad that I did because, well, Nyx is from Charmand, which is also the setting. And doing that session 0 not only let Nyx react to things, but also established her connections within the city. So it just felt like more organic, right? And I think honestly, that's something generally I think is kind of cool about the podcast setting is that 3 out of the 4 characters like were born, raised, and for the most part lived there, even if they had left for a while. And I thought that made it really unique and built those connections.
Mm-hmm.
Did your guy? Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
was going to say, if Samson had something to say on that subject.
A little bit. So for Dilly's session 0, I was a little hesitant to do it just because the events in his backstory were kind of specific, and I didn't want to like role play through that in case it went off the rails and then there was a weird discontinuity we had to deal with. But then what we ended up going with was kind of the moments after his big life-changing turn, and that helped center him emotionally for me instead of story-wise.
Yeah, it's definitely an awesome process to undergo, and you know, we don't really talk too much about individual session 0s to build the individual character's connection with the setting, but it's an awesome idea. You know, we always talk about the group session 0, you know, to sort of build the setting or whatever have you together, but that individual session 0 is actually super awesome. I really dig that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Did your guys record like solo sessions for the podcast as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we did. We record for each one of their individual session 0s. We recorded them and released them as bonus episodes, and so that was good time. The other thing I'll mention just about our prep, just around it, because I think it's important, is that with their character sheets, they were also everybody turned in one of the consent and gaming forms from Consent and Gaming from Moneycook Games, so that like we could go into it knowing where everybody's lines were.
Yes.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think kind of that leads into my next question is I heard about the consent and gaming form, filling out the consent and gaming form, and the protein bar. So,
Yeah.
so
How did you hear about the protein
The
bar?
STFU?
don't you worry about that.
We have our way.
Stace, did you spill the beans?
All the beans.
Yeah, I told them everything, you guys. Everything.
So can you guys talk about the importance of both those choices? And are there any other tips and tricks you guys use to make the game more enjoyable first for yourselves and for the listeners?
I have to say that for me, I can't think about the listeners too much when I'm recording. When we're recording, I'm just playing with my pals.
Could you explain to them what the protein bar is?
Oh, protein bar. I thought, what am I answering? What did I hear? Daniel can talk about the protein bar.
It's Daniel's protein bar.
So the protein bar is because I knew we were recording a podcast, and I've started doing this in non-podcast games as well, but is like sometimes as the GM you want to build a moment, and if your players are good, they can see when that's happening and they won't say anything. But sometimes you're playing a game and you might be tipsy, or you just might be really into the joke at the time and you can't resist it, but that ruins the moment. So I have a protein bar that just happened to be whatever I have, and that became the thing that I told them, if I raise this on video, it means shut the fuck up until I lower it. You finish the scene before you do anything.
Oh,
Do you guys remember the first scene that you actually used it?
It was our first recording, and it's
Yeah,
also an emoji on our Discord.
Amazing.
We need
Like,
a copy of that.
guys, yeah, we need to get that on the server for like, guys. We need quiet right now, please. Oh man, that's amazing.
I mean,
Ooh.
yeah, when I did my other podcast, it was like the running joke to try and get the GM to like fluff up the beginning as many times as you could, and you would just like stare at your camera and be like until they like stopped. They weren't able to look at you, and it's like, maybe we don't do that. Maybe we value each other's time. Maybe.
But,
Nice.
Yeah, we avert our eyes to give Daniel
Yep.
some privacy during
No
the
looking.
intro.
Eyes to the screen.
Do you guys have any other tips and tricks you guys use that you don't think most gaming tables utilize?
The consent in gaming, I think, is like a huge one, because after you filled it out, you feel a lot safer that the GM isn't going to be like, "Hey, guess what's happening now? Surprise! No one prepped for this."
Yeah.
There's also the X card, which we've never used,
Yeah.
thankfully, but that's always there.
I
My
never
character almost invoked that on people.
I never understood the hate for the consent in gaming forum. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
believe it generated so much drama
and
when
that's
it dropped.
really to me, that's the funniest thing too, because it's like, if you don't need it, you don't need it. Don't worry about it. But if other
Yeah.
people want to use it at their table, what does
Yeah.
it hurt? Does it hurt anybody?
Yeah.
And you can always greenlight everything if nothing
Yeah.
bothers you personally, right?
Yeah.
It is
Mhm.
a comfort level thing for sure, though. Like knowing that I had filled out a form and that everyone had filled out the form and that we were going to be like a safe, fun place for everybody
Mm-hmm.
is
Mhm.
really comforting when you're playing and recording, and it gives you confidence to build with each other. I think.
And it also like builds that relationship with your GM, you know, because then they know your lines as well, so you don't have to.
And it's actually a helpful tool for the GM because he knows exactly what direction he could take the narrative and not be surprised later, putting in all this work on a certain narrative that the players are going to disapprove of mid-game. It's saving him a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, especially if you're recording something or on
Yeah.
Twitch or whatever have you, then like another player mid-session isn't going to stop the recording like, hey, wait a second, I'm not okay with this. So that consent form is definitely super important in pretty much every aspect of gaming.
And you guys said mouthful, and it's like I said, it's just another reality of the times we live in. A lot of times we are playing with people we've never played with before.
Yeah.
It's not the same as playing with somebody. I've got a group of friends that I've been playing with for close to 30 years now. So I know their triggers. I know what I can do and can't do.
Mhm.
But, even with that, you might want to have them fill out because you might, you never encountered the one thing that might set them off.
Mhm.
And so it's not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, I think it's a great thing. We're dealing with this is a social convention, so why would we not want to be socially correct?
Mhm.
Exactly.
I have another protein bar question. Is it the same protein bar, or do you switch it up, like surprise them with a different brand every once in a while?
It's the same brand, but that's because I keep eating them. So we have two campaigns. We have the campaign that we record, and we also have a campaign that we just play as friends, like every on the opposing week of recording. And the problem is that during that game, I'm more likely to drink more, which means I'm more likely to just eat the protein bar.
He just ends up drawing one on a piece of paper. Like, here's the proxy protein bar.
You're gonna have to go to Sam's Club and get the big economy box.
Ooh, all right, but we've already established, or not established, but discussed your love of Numenera, and Numenera runs on the Cypher system, as most of y'all should know, viewers and y'all alike. Yeah, exactly. But do you guys have a favorite Cypher system mechanic while y'all are playing, or that you've like come to love while playing? And do you feel like there's any mechanics that lend themselves very positively towards like podcast actual plays?
Trying to make sure I yeah, go ahead, Marietta.
Like maybe combat tactics that make it better for actual play than say comparing it to like 5e or something, because it's more, instead of being like actual feat, it's like immediate distance or like longer range, and that's easier to be like, okay, you are X distance amount, but it doesn't have to be a numerical number.
Yeah.
Because I feel like for a podcast format, like you can't really show a map, for instance. And I think Daniel uses that really well to build that combat mechanic without making it so like technical.
Means I don't have to keep track.
Exactly.
Me either.
Except initiative.
It's definitely an awesome thing to keep.
Anybody else got a mechanic they like?
I got one. I think the difficulty rating, like here's the set number you have to beat, not guess the number I'm gonna need you to roll, and now you've rolled like a 15, and now I have to base my answer on a 15.
Yeah.
Well,
I like the defined
effort.
number. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or
So-
in D&D, I don't know what's happening. I'm like, I rolled a 13. Is that good?
Yeah.
So in
Let
other
me
words,
know
what
what
I
to
hear,
do next.
what I hear from these guys, Anthony, is like what we always talk about. These mechanics support a narrative. It's like telling a story. You don't have to crunch numbers in order to, make a thing happen. It's kind of cool. Isn't it? We talk about that, don't we?
Anybody else have a favorite mechanic?
For me, it's got to be the assets, and that you can be like, hey, can I try this? Hey, can I make it easy? And the fact that, you can do that really stretches my creativity. And I occasionally run some one-shots for people, especially I love running them for new players. And I've found myself, how you use advantage and disadvantage, not to talk about other systems too much, but I'd be
It's
like,
okay,
hey,
it's allowed.
do you have anything that could help you? And they're like, I have this rope. And I'm like, you do. You can roll with advantage. You know what I mean? So I find myself like taking that piece of being like, what about your environment, your equipment could help you with this task? And if it's reasonable, you get some help. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's written somewhere in the Cypher System rulebook or somewhere that the idea is to basically eventually get your players to the point that they don't necessarily have to roll the dice, that they can just say it happens. And that's what you're talking about, Stace, because you know what, it's a difficulty 4, but I've got 2 assets and then I expend some effort. Guess what? I don't have to roll dice.
Samson or Daniel, do you guys have a favorite mechanic?
I do, but I'll let Samson answer first.
I don't know if you'd call this an actual mechanic, but I like how all the abilities are written very like open-ended, that you can add whatever twist, you can do within certain constraints almost whatever you want with them. I don't know if that's a mechanic really.
No, but
it is.
It's actually the philosophy of the entire, the entire CSR. Yeah, which is refreshing.
I mean, there's also the optional rules that say that you can modify abilities on the fly, and I guess it is a mechanic per se because it is part of the optional law.
Let's expend 2 points of XP for a short-term benefit, something that your ability didn't do. Let's expend 3 points of XP, and I got a contact in the city that I didn't know I had. Just so many little nuanced things. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have we ever done Sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, I was just gonna. I heard what you was gonna say, Stace, and I found it weird that I'll let Daniel answer first because.
Yeah. So I'll say it's kind of related to what I think you're about to say, Stace,
Yeah.
but different. My favorite mechanic, like effort, is actually like from a player perspective, it's my favorite thing. But the XP as a meta currency for the game, like, so it's an XP. Okay, you can spend it for a short-term benefit. I want a reroll, or I want like sort of the medium-term benefit, like I have a contact in the city, or I can use it to advance. Like I love that sort of approach to sort of like budgeting your XP and being able to get like concrete benefits from it. And that it, obviously how you get XP is going to depend on the game, the setting that you're running, and the GM and things like that. But I love the idea of budgeting XP between like I need to spend something right now, or I want to move my character forward, just because I feel like it adds such an interesting element to the choices you make in the game as how you move your character forward.
Yeah, Cypher System is a resource management game on so many levels.
Oh, and, yeah.
Your health is a resource. Your character advancement is a resource. Your XP. So it's it's a beautifully designed system. But I was gonna say is that no one said intrusions, and that's weird because most people say player and GM intrusions are the one mechanic that that everyone enjoys. I found it very interesting that none of your guys actually mentioned the intrusion mechanic.
So I'm cheating. I'm cheating because the XP meta currency is from the intrusion, because you get to spend an XP. You get to reward somebody for letting you do something fun.
Yeah. But other than rerolls, have any of us players ever used it for a benefit? For a player intrusion?
I think I did it once in the first campaign.
Yeah, it's not really something.
Oh, I need
Y'all
to
need to get
guys.
on that. Yeah.
Keep forgetting.
My games are literally, can I spend it as soon as they get the XP? Here's a player intrusion.
Can I do this? Can I do that?
See, I'm the opposite.
Listen to them.
Just, like, don't want to spend it.
Yeah, we want to advance. We're very advancement focused.
And that's another thing I noticed from listening to the videos. I noticed that when your guys roll a 20, a lot of times Daniel states the intrusion. Is that something that commonly happens a lot? Or do the players, do your guys state your intrusions on 20s?
Or major effect to correct your verbiage.
No, GM intrusion.
Now you said 20.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. When you roll a natural 20, you can change the narrative. And a lot of times Daniel, he'll ask, but then he'll give you the benefit.
Yeah,
is that something?
He's seen us go,
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So this could be, it's really like, well, this could be a player intrusion. And we're like, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like exactly what I wanted to happen.
No,
Thanks,
I mean,
Daniel.
Daniel's doing exactly what a GM should be doing, moving the game forward, giving them options. I was just wondering if that was, is that something like was pre-planned by your guys, or it's more about getting accustomed to the actual, when I roll a 20, I could change the narrative myself. Because that is kind of like a big part of the Cypher system itself, is the players changing the narrative on the GM.
And it's kind of funny that we ended up talking about this. And I love when we have people on, because the conversations always spark another thought process or another way I start to see the system in of itself. And you know what? We're talking about it all supports the narrative. That whole concept, which you were just saying about, Daniel, about, spending the XP, the resource of the XP, that's all the narrative. You know what I'm saying? It's all the story, which for me really works, because, I look at Cypher System like I look at movies and television series and stuff like that. When I sit down at the table, that's the experience I'm trying to give to the people. I want them to feel like, you're on your favorite TV show, or you're in your favorite action movie, or sci-fi saga, or whatever the case may be. And so just thank you guys for bringing up stuff like that sparks that whole creative process again and allows you to refine it. So see, we get stuff out of these interviews too.
The one thing I got from listening to your guys' show that I really, really enjoy is I feel like I'm a friend sitting at your table experiencing the game. I just don't have a character sheet, which is very refreshing. Especially like I listen on my way to work, So I have my headphones on and I'll listen to an episode, and it feels like I could feel like this is a group of friends that I would game with or am gaming with. I'm just not playing in that game. And Daniel does a great job of moving the story forward, but still allowing your guys to dialogue with each other, interact with each other, but still keeping his pace and keeping the story forever moving forward. And that's what you really want in a podcast. You don't want it to get stagnant.
Yeah, it's excellent. I have to agree with Anthony on that one. So, that brings us to our final question of the night for you before we, do something else. And that's going to be, what can we look forward to from Explorers Wanted? What does the future hold? Marietta, you got excited.
Dan, what does the future hold?
Bad decisions, I think.
Definitely a lot of bad decisions. Because it's funny because we record 2 months in advance, so we're 2 months ahead of the listeners on what's happening in every episode. But yeah, a lot of questionable decisions, a lot of cool decisions that the players make, fun complications, and ever tightening danger.
But do you guys have any other projects that you're going to be working on after this, maybe, or like any plans to do maybe a side project or something like that, or is it all the focus just on Explorers Wanted for the moment?
I'd say that's the main focus, but we really like each other, and we're hoping if this is successful that we could do more with it. Like we just launched our Patreon, which is pretty exciting. So the more support we get there, the more opportunity we have to create more content. I think we have big dreams. It's just we are still building our community right now. We want you to please come hang out with us, especially in our Discord. We're really lonely and desperate.
So desperate.
That's so awesome. And we'll absolutely provide all those links in our little.
So I have a little bit addition I want to ask about that too. So you guys got Explorers Wanted. You said we're 2 months behind. So do you have like a end point, maybe a season finale or a show finale, and then you could do a season 2 or maybe take it in another direction? It's out.
We haven't reached it yet. There are a couple places where we could do season breaks for this arc or potentially doing something else, but it's a ways out. It's at least a year out.
Oh wow.
Is it?
That's
oh
awesome.
Man, I was gonna say as a player it feels like we're getting towards the end of arc 1, but maybe
I feel like we played 10
That's
seasons.
adorable.
Daniel's like, lol. Never mind.
Tip
Not
of the
this
iceberg.
All right, guys, give yourself a round of the applause. You answered the easy questions.
Oh, okay.
Here's where we dig deep into your soul, right? And we pull out your essence and we spread it across the table for the whole world to see. These are our rapid fire questions. They're usually a quick, 2-phrase, 1-word answer, but you can elaborate if you want to. And, are you guys ready for our rapid fire questions?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Told you.
We'll do it this way too, just so we keep it quick and moving. We're going to start with Andrew, and we'll just go right down the line. How's that?
Wait, Andrew, what?
I'm Andrew.
I was like, Andrew. I was like, oh, did I forget names?
And Dean, that's not going to work because everyone has a different line. Nobody has the same. Right, so
I'll get things started and I'll ask you guys individually. But either way, player or GM? Alex.
Player?
Marietta.
Player.
Samson.
Depends on the system, but player.
Stace.
Player.
And Daniel.
GM, always.
I was
That's
like,
good.
Dad just said player. I'll be like, hey, wait a minute. This is
All right. So I'm going to say pull punches or TPK. Marietta.
Pull punches.
Alex.
TPK.
Samson,
Pull punches.
Stace,
TPK.
Daniel.
No comment.
No comment.
It's the first time we've gotten that answer.
Good answer. Good answer. Good answer.
Online or in-person gaming? Alex.
Online. I've never done in person.
Awesome.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is crazy, actually. Wow.
We're gonna have to change that one day.
What is
Most-
people?
That.
Marietta.
I'd say in person, but online is currently my best campaign that's going, so
Daniel.
Podcast.
it is the podcast in case you're wondering.
It's my other friends I hang out with on Wednesday.
Shh, you're not supposed to tell Daniel about them.
Daniel, online or in person?
In person if it's the right people, but I've had so much more luck finding the right mix of people through online.
That makes a lot of sense. I think I'm in the same boat. Stace.
Online. I don't have to remember things. Everything's saved on my computer. Half the time I don't get my dice out till 10 minutes into recording. Which, is a cipher problem, really, but illustrates my point.
Samson.
In person.
Alright, awesome. Next one is announce the difficulty number or keep it a secret. Daniel?
Announce it. Put all the tension on what the dice brings up. Like, don't make it a guess. Don't make it a DM. Like, I love that moment when the player rolls and whatever the dice hits, they know they hit it or they didn't, and that it's all that moment of chance.
I dig it. Stace?
Announce it, please. And do the math for me, please.
Samson?
Keep it a secret, because then you have room for a partial success, and it's not a binary pass or fail.
I dig it. Marietta?
I'd say I like knowing. Sometimes it adds to the tension when it's like, you have to reach a 21 and you're tier 1 and you're like, yeah, I guess I just die.
And Alex?
Announce it. I do like that. Difficulty 30, and you're just like,
Okay, well, guess I'll roll a new character.
if I die.
All right. We'll start with you, Daniel. Salty or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
Salty.
Stace?
I don't snack at the gaming table very often, actually. I don't like other people hearing my mouth sounds.
That's. I've heard people mention not eating around people for that reason, but this is a first for this answer for like
you never
interviewers.
It's
There's this thing that goes with gaming called food.
Mhm.
Samson?
Salty.
Alex?
Both, but only if I can mute my mic, because I also don't like the idea of people witnessing me eating.
Mhm.
Marietta?
So yeah, we don't really snack while we record, but we sometimes beverage, and I would say that's definitely sweet.
Marietta,
Salty
sometimes you
beverage.
eat meals.
That's when we're not recording, and Daniel gave me shade because I turned the video off while I was eating spaghetti.
That's right, we made you eat it in
He
front of
was
us.
like, "We're past this point. Eat your spaghetti in front of us."
Turn that camera
Okay.
back. I want to see what kind of sauce you're using.
Yeah, good times. I'm sure he has some screen grabs.
Did everybody answer?
Yep.
Yep.
RP or combat? Samson.
RP. Easy.
Stace.
Ooh, wow, this is a real tough one. But I make
That's
a
what-
combat.
We
Huh?
dig deep into your soul and
Yeah.
stretch.
I roll a combat character every time for a reason. I like doing damage.
Daniel.
RP.
Alex.
I don't know which one my ADHD will let me focus on, so I'm just like,
You like RP while you combat.
Yeah. Let me
Yes.
throw
Why
you
not
this
both?
knife.
Combat while you RP.
Yeah.
Marietta.
Yeah, RP for sure. I also like hurting things, but RP.
Alex, I just saw it in my mind's eye. Alex plays characters like Spider-Man and Deadpool. You know,
Yeah.
they're consistently
Really,
bantering
though?
they're consistently bantering at people.
Pretty specific example.
But next question is PDFs or physical books? Marietta?
Oh, I want it to be physical books, but right now it's PDF.
Daniel?
Books whenever I can, but books only if I also have the PDF so I can look it on my phone if I'm in a hurry.
Stace?
I start with PDFs and I end up just buying the book.
Samson?
PDFs.
And Alex?
Books are just so much easier to read.
I feel that.
All right, so pre-written adventures or original content? We'll start with Samson.
Original content that has butchered pre-written adventures.
Alex?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Samson. It's better when you can butcher original, like pre-written things with original content.
Marietta?
The campaign that I ran for a long time was original content, so I guess I'll go with that.
Stace?
Through.
I like pre-written one-shots, but original campaigns.
And Daniel.
I'm the same. For a one-shot or a con game, I'll always start from a pre-written adventure and tweak it, but for a campaign, it's always original content where I'll get bored if I'm just reading from the book.
Great answers.
Sweet, sweet. So
That's why he
there.
won't run Strahd.
Yeah,
Please don't talk to me about that. Can't.
we need the vampires stat. I'm
It's
sorry.
a running joke.
You don't even understand. I'm going through a painful situation right now.
I'm so sorry.
My best friend is like that, you know, and you know,
Uh,
I'm playing in a Strahd campaign with him.
Sometimes
so
you
sorry.
gotta make that sacrifice for those you love, you know? You just
So,
you gotta go fight a vampire.
so you know, with that being said, though, that was our last question.
No, Dean, we have one more question. You read my question.
Oh,
so, Anthony, what is the last question?
The last question is pen and paper, notes, or digital? And we'll start off with Alex.
I think pen and paper, just because I'm actually like recording on a laptop, so it'd be awkward if I was like this all the time,
Yeah.
just like gesturing at my screen too much.
Marietta, pen and paper notes or digital?
Usually Samson's notes, but when I do write things down, it's on paper.
That's great, because the next person I'm asking is Samson. Pen and paper notes
And in
or
paper, baby.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I know that feel. So many notebooks behind me.
Space.
Nope.
What is that?
Question mark. That's the whole answer. Notes question mark.
I occasionally will write like a word on my character sheet in like the cipher section or somewhere else, and then I just find my own clues the next week if they're there. They're usually not.
Daniel, pen and paper or digital notes?
During gameplay, I'll do paper notes if it's something I have to keep in mind there, but otherwise everything's digital because a lot of times I'm working on campaigns like from my phone or whatever when I have a free moment.
Yeah, good answers.
nice.
Awesome.
So, I missed a question. I apologize. So, but that ends our questions. That was, you know, hope you enjoyed that. You made it through.
You
You're alive.
survived.
We survived.
You survived. So, final question here is, you know, you guys have, how can we contact you? You know, what's your Twitter names or Facebook or Discord and so on and so forth?
Marietta, do you want to do that?
I'm making eye contact with you. Can you tell?
I can't see. Oh, Caesar's looking at me. So if you want to find us, we have all of the social medias. A good place to start would be our website, which is explorerswanted.fm. But if that's not enough for you, we are very active on our Twitter, which is @explorerswanted. And then we have an Instagram that's @explorerswanted podcast, and we're also @explorerswanted podcast on Facebook. And then the most important thing, in my very important opinion, is our Discord, where you can really come hang out with us and interact and talk about episodes or show us pictures of your animals or your plants. And links to that are going to be found on any of the social medias or on our website, which is again explorerswanted.fm.
And we're going to include all those down below too, just so you guys know. So we'll make sure. And didn't you have one more thing you forgot, Marietta?
Did I?
A Patreon you just started?
Sorry, that's new as within the last 2 weeks for us. Yes, we launched our Patreon. It's pretty simple to your wise. I think it only goes up to 15 or something. But
Explorers Wanted is the Patreon.
Okay. Yeah, I'll add that in later.
Oh boy.
I'll add that to my memorized social media show.
But yeah, we'll definitely add links to all that stuff down below so our viewers can check out your stuff.
Alright, I'm gonna go dig a hole and line it.
Don't feel bad, Marietta. I do, I forgot a question, and then, I do stuff like say Anthony's lines. Don't even worry about it.
I just spend hours writing show notes, and Dean just ignores them.
Daniel's saving them all for a blooper reel, and I'm happy to provide content. So,
but everything is content.
But
hashtag everything is content.
Is there anything else y'all want to plug personal wise, like your own personal Twitters or personal projects or anything like that?
I do have a plug. We are matching donations to Black Visions Collective Minnesota up to $1,000. We haven't gotten $1,000 worth of matches. We've gotten several. So, and I think, Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, if you choose to donate to another cause outside of Black Visions Minnesota that's related, you can see if we'll match it, but we can't promise that we'll match an one that we haven't previously vetted. So Black Visions for sure. Something else, let us know. We'll see what we can do.
Could you definitely share that link? Because I could tell you all honestly, the Cypher Unlimited would like to donate to whatever charity you're donating to, and whether you match or not. But we definitely want to donate, on behalf of Cypher Unlimited.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, we'll definitely include a link to that down below as well.
Great, yay!
And you can find me at Stace Windu on Twitter.
Anybody else want to share their personal Twitters, or are you just good with the Explorers Wanted?
Sign off.
It's up to you.
I'm at Slime Potato.
Oh yeah, you can do your sign off. Yeah, it's up to you.
You can find me on Twitter at Andrlik, ANDRLIK.
Oh, absolutely, and we'll have everyone's Twitter links down below as well. You should follow these people. You should listen to these their podcasts. You should listen to Explorers Wanted. You should go support them on Patreon because it's absolutely a great show, and we couldn't support it enough. You guys are doing great things, and I hope to see you guys continue with many more episodes. And we hope our fans become your fans.
Absolutely.
We just want friends.
Thank you.
So many friends.
And with that said, if you like us and you like what we do, we also have a Ko-fi that you could visit and, give us a little, for the price of a cup of coffee, I could get dressed in the morning and brush my teeth and stuff like that. No, I'm just kidding.
I have clothes to wear.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we also have an online store. So if you like this Cypher Unlimited gear that me and Dean have on, you could drop by and purchase some of our gear. It helps us get people for great interviews like Explorers Wanted. It helps us pay for minimum fees like Zoom and stuff like that. But once again, like we always say, you do not have to support us financially in any way. our content will always be free. The one thing we do ask you is to please come to our Discord. We have the largest one fan Discord with over 3,100 members, all about Cypher System and Cypher System gaming. We got games being run every day. Yes, I said every day. We have games run every day. So if you like Cypher System and haven't played in the game, come check us out because we could definitely get you in the game.
And they run at various times, so they even accommodate people across, in just about every time zone that's possible. We're there, we're making it happen. And Invisible Sun is also supported on the Cypher Unlimited channel as well.
Yeah, and last but not least, please like, share, and subscribe any of our videos. Plus, hit that notification bell because it will allow you to know when we have a new video up. We post a video every week, and we have great interviews, actual plays, and editorials. Dean or Al? I'm sorry.
Most definitely. Thank you all for coming on and talking with us. It was a fantastic talk. It's very illuminating to hear, we love for Numenera and, the processes and how you go about your things. Especially that Session 0 individual thing was very cool. But, thank you everyone for watching out at home. And, from us at the CU, we will see you later.
Bye.